Hi, Marie. Welcome to the Genetic Genius podcast. I'm so excited to have you as a guest today. Welcome.
Oh, Lulu, the pleasure's mine. Thanks so much for having me.
Yay, it's going to be so awesome. I'm so excited to talk today about meal planning and especially for the holidays that we have coming up next week. And of course, the rest of the year. It's all holidays from here on out, which is great. We need
Totally.
it. um,
We do.
yeah, we so do. Before we get started, I'd love for you to just introduce yourself, talk about what you do, your passion, your place on the planet, and you're doing such amazing things right now.
Sure, sure. I am the founder of Feed Your Family Tonight. My mission in life is to create stronger families, and I approach that by helping busy families get weeknight dinner on the table, even when life is crazy. So I started Feed Your Family Tonight in 2017 when I was sitting on the sidelines of my twins' competitive soccer games, and all the other moms were saying, "We're going to hit the drive-through, we're going to go home, we're going to get homework done, we're going to get the kids in the bathroom, we're going to put them to bed." And I was doing all of that except for hitting the drive through. And they were asking me how I did it. And that
Mm.
became the seeds of teaching them what I had learned. I kind of had to reverse engineer my process so that I could break it down. Because the thing about it is, meal planning is something that's really individual to your life and your schedule and the foods that you eat. And
Hmm.
what my family's going to eat is not probably what your family's going to eat.
Right,
And so
everybody's
I
different.
teach a way of making meal planning. We're all different. I
Right.
mean, my kids will not eat a cheese enchilada, but they'll eat stuffed grape leaves. You know, it's a crazy thing. But I want a meal planning to work in your family, in your home, so
Hmm.
that you can get a little bit more calm in the crazy. And by sitting down at the table, eating meals together as much as possible, it creates that calm and a centering in your family.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Yeah, especially so needed right now when people are trying to figure out their new normal, right? When they're working less or they're working more in a new way at home, which could be the same hours, but feels totally different because they have the kids in the back seat and behind them while they're working. So it's so great to have you on this week to really talk about
Totally.
that, that new normal for people, and especially when it comes to meal planning, because that's even more important when you have so many different variables that are causing this different level of stress.
Absolutely, absolutely. Our lives are ever changing and we're having to adapt. And in my house, sometimes it's day by day. It's not even week by week
Right,
anymore.
totally.
Depending upon what's happening with my kids. I didn't say this. I'm married and I have 4 kids that are all teenagers now.
Oh, well.
I have 13 I have 13-year-old twins, a 15-year-old girl and a 17-year-old boy. And so my house is crazy. And all of them are in school at least part-time in the building at this moment. So they're kind of sometimes home, sometimes in the school building, and it creates a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, and a lot of my patients and different people have been talking about how different that is now. It's like maybe before you sent the kids off to school and they had their meals at school, and now they're even having to create this whole other aspect of food, planning for them to eat their lunches at home, planning for more snacks at home, feeding their minds while they're at home
Yes.
and themselves trying to stay sane.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as a parent, I was just talking with my husband about this week as I said I need to start feeding myself better. I'm very
Mm,
good about feeding the children, but during the day, sometimes I don't stop to eat, and I need to
mhm.
start making sure that I am nourishing my body throughout the day too. And so I've taken some measures to help me eat a little bit better.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, if we don't nurture ourselves, then we can't help others, right? It's the key.
Right. It's the whole air mask in the airplane, right? Wouldn't it be nice if we could go on an airplane now? But yeah, you got
Right.
to put it on yourself first before you can take care of others. So this week,
Yeah.
on Sunday morning, I made myself a big egg casserole with
Mm.
homemade turkey sausage, and I've been eating on it all week. So I get some protein and some veggies and all sorts of
Yum.
things. So yeah.
That sounds great. So let's talk about why meal planning can is so key right now, why it's like so impactful during this really stressful time.
Well, here's the thing is when we are in this stressful time, our brains are doing a lot of work. Our brains are constantly having to adjust and come up with new things and adapt to our surroundings. And when you meal plan, you are giving yourself brain space. And for
Mhm.
me, that is the absolute first thing that it does by taking 10 to 15 minutes at the beginning of the week. And I'll tell you, it takes me all of at least 10 to 15 minutes to do it. I look at
Mhm.
our activities. I figure out when we're going to eat because in my house, it's never the same time because my kids are in all these different activities. And then I plan my meals around what our life is like. So on a day like today, where I had meetings all afternoon and then I had this podcast interview, my
Mhm.
energy level is going to be low tonight. And so
Mhm.
I planned a dinner that goes in the oven that doesn't take a lot of hands-on work from me because I
Yeah.
know I'm not going to have the capacity to fix something after the end of my long work day.
Right.
And on days, right. And then on days when I have more time, then I schedule something like a stir fry so that I can stand at the stove and physically cook for 20 or 30 minutes before dinner. And so a
Mm.
lot of it just so you plan your meals around your schedule. And here's the thing
Mhm.
that happens. Sometimes people make New Year's resolutions. Most New
Mhm.
Year's resolutions in America fall into one of three categories: something to do with your organization,
Mhm.
something to do with your health, or something to do with your budget. When you are meal planning, you are hitting all three of those things
Yay.
because you're getting more organized and you're
Mhm.
being able to shop smarter. Your health usually improves because you're not eating out as much, you're not eating as many prepared foods. And there are statistics that say when you eat more meals at home, you naturally eat more fruits and vegetables.
Mhm.
So you're improving your health. And then the third thing is you're improving your budget because you're only buying the foods that you need and you're relying on the drive through and fast food and packaged food
Mhm.
less. And so meal planning is one of those things where we've got a lot of chaos happening around us. And if you can have something that kind of grounds you in that chaos, you are going to
Mhm.
have more capacity to deal with the bumps in the road that come day to day.
Totally. Yeah. And that's so key is to, I love those three aspects that you talked about because, a lot, those are the things that people, when those three things fall off the table, that's when they don't eat properly. Right. It's like, oh, I don't have
Yes.
the money to eat right. Well, I'm just going to go to a fast food place, which actually is not cheaper, but people in their some mind frame think it's cheaper. Right. And then, like you said, being able to organize your meals is so key, and we're going to talk a lot about that today with the holidays in mind to really help families that are listening to have this extra support they're needing in this really different time that we're going through, as far as the holidays go. And we'll talk about that too. Awesome. So, how can this meal planning then help to reduce the stress not only all year long, but also during the holidays? What are some of those key aspects?
Well, the thing about the holidays is there are hundreds more decisions that you're making. You're thinking about the gifts that you have to buy. You're thinking about the activities that you want to do. And now you're calculating whether the activity is worth the risk or not. So we've got that happening with the pandemic. With all
Mm-hmm.
of these hundreds of decisions, they are taking up brain space. I
Mm-hmm.
actually have a holiday planner that
Oh,
walks through a
yay.
lot of these decisions. It's at feedyourfamilytonight.com/holiday, and it will save you time. It will save you money, but most of all, it's going to ground you and save you peace of mind.
Mm.
Because when we hit times that are extra stressful, we usually do one of two things. We fall into our old habits or we start getting into bad habits.
Right, which
And
can be old or new.
right, but both.
Right,
And
both.
and so the more intention that we put into things that we can control during stressful times, because often there's things out of our control,
Right.
but with the more intention that we put into things that we control, the more calm and peace that we're going to have, and also the more bandwidth we have to face the things that we can't control. So let me give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
My girls are in a Christmas pageant every year. It's with a children's theater here in town.
Oh, fun.
And and it is right in the middle of the holiday season. And
Of
it is
course.
so much fun, but it is really stressful because they've got rehearsal in like the busiest time of year. Okay. And I love it. It's wonderful, but it takes a lot of stress off of me. And so, or put stress on me. So what I have to do is I have to be more intentional. I have to plan more so that I don't get caught up in the hustle and bustle. And that
Hmm.
also means that I have less time to put towards other things. So I ask my family at the beginning of the holiday season, what is most important to you?
Mm.
What, and is it going to see the Christmas lights? Is it decorating cookies? Is it making a certain dish? Is it watching a certain movie? And I get that input from my family at the beginning of the holiday season, and I
Hmm.
focus on the things that are most important to them. And then other things that are good, but are less important, are easier to say no to.
Right.
And
Totally. That's so key.
yeah, you have to, because there are too many good things. We cannot say yes to everything.
Right. We don't have enough,
And
like you said, bandwidth or time in our brains or time in our body, time in our life.
right, right. And so intentionality in everything. I take this to the 100th degree in my holiday planner. I talk about donations. Now's the time of year when a bunch of charities are going to be sending you letters saying, send us money. And I want
Hmm.
you to think about what your budget is and who you're going to give to before those letters come,
Right.
so that you don't get washed up and start feeling guilty that you can't do everything that you want to do. I talk about gift wrapping and getting a wrapping station. But
Mm.
gift giving is one of my favorite things to talk about with holiday planning because it can really suck you in. And by
Totally.
getting everything out, right? And the thing
Hmm.
is, there's the people that sneak up on you,
Right.
or there's the present that you bought in October that you can't find on December 23rd.
You hid it in that special place so you would remember, right? I always do that.
Oh, we've all done it. We've all done it. I've done it. This is why I put it on the planner, because I'm like, I'm not making that mistake again. So I have a
Totally.
holiday gift giving guide. Yeah.
Nice.
That you write one page for each category. So in my house, I have one page for each member of my family. I have a
Hmm.
page for my husband's side of the family, a page for my side of the family, a page for the teachers and the service providers. So like the piano teacher and the voice teacher and those types of things. I have a list for all of my coworkers and my husband's coworkers, and I write every name down. I
Mm.
write down what my budget is for each of those people, and then I start listing what gifts I'm going to get. And then I take that list and I write, where can I get those gifts? And I write
Right.
it by website or retailer. And
Hmm.
then I take that and I transfer it to another sheet, and I make one shopping trip to the mall. And I get everything. And I might be buying something for the mailman and something for my brother in law and something for my daughter all at the same time.
Right, but you get
But
it
I'm getting it all in
done.
one trip.
Yeah.
And you do it by or you do it by websites too.
Right.
And then you're saving money on shipping because you're getting higher dollar orders. And so usually the more you spend, the less the shipping is.
Right.
And so you're saving yourself time, you're saving yourself money. But what's even more important is when you get all of those things that are swirling in your head
Mm.
out of your head and onto paper, you are going to be more calm and you're going to
Mm.
have more bandwidth for other things.
That's so true. Yeah, your sympathetic nervous system and your parasympathetic nervous system don't have to do that fight, right? So you can take a moment and
Yes.
rest and breathe, and your nervous system can enjoy the holidays because there's other stress besides just gift giving.
Oh, right. I mean, oh, there's 100 things that are stressful during the holidays. But again, the more we can be intentional, the more we can get things out of our heads and onto paper. I mean, use my planner or do it on a notebook, get a spiral notebook, do something,
Hmm.
but write it down, get it out of your head, and it will save those things. This happens with meal planning because I talk about that. But do you ever have that like feeling of dinner dread where all day long, at 5 o'clock you have to go and fix dinner?
Right. You're like, what am I
And
going to make? What am I going to make?
and it becomes a loop in your head, and you
Totally. Yeah,
think about
the
it and
tape
you
loop.
obsess about it. Yeah,
Hmm.
that loop goes on in your head. And the same thing happens with everything in the holidays only you don't have one loop in your head, you have 25 loops
Right,
in your head. You've
totally.
got the loop about Thanksgiving at your mother-in-law's, and you've got the loop about the present that you have to buy for your brother-in-law because you drew his name and he's hard to buy for. And you've got the loop about your kid that they really want something and you don't know if you're going to be able to get it because you think it's sold out in the store. And you have all of these different
All these
loops
different things
that are
trying to compete for space, like you said.
they're all
Mhm.
competing for brain space. So get them
Mhm.
out of your head and onto paper, and then you can start organizing them and you can be more intentional.
Yeah, that's so great. I love that. And it is all about intention. And when, like you said, when you have that extra space, then you're allowed to give the intention to the food, which helps nourish your family, helps nourish you, helps you to have the energy to have the successful, wonderful family holiday that you're dreaming about.
Right. And don't you know, I mean, you're the medical professional here, but when you eat better, you feel better. But in order to eat
Yeah,
better, you have to make wiser choices and you have to have the bandwidth to make the wiser choices. And you have to have a plan so that you don't get stuck and you don't fall into old habits when stress comes.
right.
And
Hmm.
so
That's the easiest
it
thing to
all
do when you get stressed. Like you said, it's just, something that we have developed a habit for that's easy for us to fall into. It could be something that we grew up with during the holidays that's actually not a good habit, right? Like eating too many cookies or something like that. Having too much sugar, having
oh,
too much
totally.
alcohol, all that stuff, which is another key thing I think you're going to talk about with the meal planning, which is awesome. Okay, so making the list for different or organizing, it sounds like is super key. And what about, so how can you talk a little bit about how our listeners can prep for Thanksgiving coming up, how they can, what are some key tips for organizing their life to make Thanksgiving really easy, from the meal planning to maybe even the actual cooking to, and also I'd love for you to talk about like post, like leftover time, because I think all those key components are really important for our listeners.
Okay, so I have a Thanksgiving countdown and a Thanksgiving 101. We've got a lot of people that are cooking Thanksgiving for the first time. And this
Yeah.
podcast, if you're listening to it when it comes out, it's wonderful because what I recommend doing for Thanksgiving, the first thing is talk with your family and see
Hmm.
what's most important. And
Right.
if
The
the
favorite
mashed
dish you
potatoes
can't live
are not
without.
important, great. But if there's something that isn't important, let it go. That's the first thing. The second thing is do not cook the whole meal yourself. Outsource at least one course. And that could be you order your turkey from the barbecue joint and you get a smoked turkey. It could
Hmm.
be that you buy a veggie platter from your local grocery store so you're not having to cut the veggies. It could be that you're ordering a pie from a bakery. It could
Hmm.
be that you're ordering your rolls from a bakery. It doesn't matter what you how you outsource it, but pick at least one, maybe two or three courses that you are not responsible for making. All you have to do is pick them up.
Yep. So
Because
key.
so get your menu ready, choose what course you're going to outsource. Then make your grocery list. And I recommend doing two grocery shopping trips. One the week before Thanksgiving, where you get as many things as you can that aren't perishable
Hmm.
and get it all stocked up. And then early Thanksgiving week, do a smaller grocery trip,
A
get the
tiny
last minute
one.
fresh items. I'm talking, yeah, get the last minute fresh items
Right. The
that you
special
need.
things that you need. The
Right.
garnishes.
Yeah.
The
Yeah. Fresh fruits and
flowers.
vegetables. You might need some heavy cream, just get your get your last minute fresh items the next week. And that's gonna help you get in and out of the grocery store faster. First of all, the week of Thanksgiving, it is always cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs at the grocery store.
Right.
And so so if you can get the bulk of your shopping done before.
What about
Okay, when
ordering it from the store? Oh, sorry to interrupt. Ordering it like from Whole Foods or from Harris Teeter or
yep.
whatever your local place is. Is that a great way for people to plan to make their list and then have it delivered to their house during this quarantine time?
I am all about a grocery delivery or a grocery pickup, but I want you to know spots fill up fast. So here's my
Mm,
tip
mm-hmm.
is reserve your spot as soon as you listen to this podcast. And most places let you change your order up to 24 hours before the actual day. So go reserve your spot now and then just add to your list until the
So
day before
great.
you have to get it picked up. But those spots, especially Wednesday slots, in my area, I'm in Wichita, Kansas, and most Wednesday of Thanksgiving week spots are like full.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
you
So
want
key.
to you want to so you want to schedule those now, and remember for next year, as soon as November hits, just schedule your grocery pickup and then you can add to it later. But most
Wow.
people
I
will
didn't
let you
know that.
schedule 3 to 4 weeks ahead of time. So that's my tip about grocery pickup. I love
Hmm.
it. It's wonderful.
Yay. Hmm.
and and I recommend it more for that first big grocery trip than the second grocery trip. And the reason is sometimes you get some wonky substitutions. It's happened to all of us where they
Right.
substitute something really silly and you're like, I don't see how this is equivalent to this, but whatever. And
Right.
then you can pick up that wonky substituted item when you go into the store on that second smaller quick trip. Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
key.
We need to
Love
talk
it.
about turkeys.
Turkey.
You got to thaw your turkey, and it takes a long time to thaw your turkey. Um, if you have a 20 to 22 pound turkey, it should be thawing in your refrigerator the Friday before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that's a long time in
16
advance.
to 20. Yes, because it's a
Hmm.
big bird and it's
Yeah.
frozen solid. 16 to
Right.
20 pounds Saturday, 10 to 16 pounds Sunday, and then small turkeys or turkey breasts Monday or Tuesday, they need to be thawing. If you are buying something like a heritage bird that is what's called super chilled, a lot of times
Hmm.
that you get them from a specialty food store or a health food store. They are super chilled, and that means almost frozen, and they still need to be in your refrigerator for 3 or 4 days. So don't
Wow.
think that you're buying a fresh turkey that
Right.
it's not going to have to thaw. When you put that turkey in your refrigerator to thaw, you want to put something under it to catch any drips as it sweats because we don't want cross contamination. And raw poultry and things like raw vegetables don't necessarily make happy together.
Right.
So
No, not a
have
good
something.
combo.
So something you want to do is you want to get a tray or a sheet pan or a 9 by 13, something to catch the drips as your turkey thaws. So that's a little bit about turkey. I recommend cooking as much as you can ahead of time. You
Hmm.
can freeze it, you can keep it in your refrigerator. If you cook things like casseroles ahead of time, maybe you assemble them and they still have to be baked, make sure you allow for adequate thawing time. A
Mm.
solid 9 by 13 of sweet potato casserole is going to take 24 to 36 hours to thaw in your refrigerator.
Wow, you don't want a
So
frozen
you want to think about
casserole.
right. And you also want to think about food safety. You don't want to take a
Hmm.
frozen casserole and put it straight in the oven because it's going to spend too much time in that bacteria danger zone.
Right.
I'm kind of a food safety geek, and Thanksgiving is a place where people run into food safety issues, and you don't want
Totally.
anyone getting ill from your Thanksgiving dinner.
Right. Not a
So I'm
happy guest.
but I want to talk with about it because I think it's something that's
Yeah.
often
So
overlooked.
key. Right.
Um, so plan out, cook as much as ahead as you can. I have a countdown if you want like exactly what to be doing day by day. It's
Nice.
in the
That's
holiday
great.
planning guide at feedyourfamilytonight.com/holiday. But in general, you want to like I make my sweet potato casserole. I have to bake the sweet potatoes. I can do that on Monday or Tuesday of
Right. You can do
Thanksgiving
it
Day.
totally in advance.
On Wednesday, that's usually when I'm baking my desserts. And then Thursday, all I'm doing is cooking the turkey and then um, cooking casseroles or things that have already been assembled. You
Right.
want to plan your oven time. And this sounds really silly, but I want you to plan it like kind of to the minute
Hmm.
because you have different things that be in the oven at different temperatures for different amounts of time. So I want you to think about that so that you don't get caught at the last minute with something that needs to be in the oven at 500 degrees along with something that's keeping warm at 250 degrees.
Right. Not a
So look at your
good
oven time, look at the
temperature.
dishes you're making. Yeah. Well, and it's happened. It's happened. And
Right.
you're like,
Yeah. You're like, oh
oh,
no, how am I
what
going
do
to
we
warm
do
that
now? I
up?
mean, so your turkey is going to take several hours to roast. I want you to think about when you want to serve it and count backwards from that. Figure out
Mm-hmm.
how much time it's going to take to cook depending upon the size, count backwards, and if you're eating dinner at 6:30 and you've got a really big bird, that bird's probably going into the oven at 1:30 in the
Right.
afternoon. You want to allow time for it to rest before you carve it. So you will add 30 minutes of resting time plus 20 minutes to carve it, because let's be honest, it's going to take 20 minutes to carve a turkey.
Right.
They're kind
I
of a
always
little
end up
bit
being the
beastly.
carver. I'm like, how does that happen? I like cook all day. I'm like, do I have to be
Yeah.
the carver?
Yeah, and they're kind of beastly. I mean,
Right. They're
it's work
hard.
to carve a
Yeah, that's
turkey.
what it totally is. It's mangly. Like slides off the
It's work
counter.
to carve a turkey. Now,
Yeah.
there's one thing you can do that actually my mother does this, is she wants the turkey to be done about 2 hours before dinner. She
Hmm.
will let it rest for a half an hour. She will carve it, put it on the platter with some of the juices that were in the pan,
Oh
put
yeah.
tinfoil over it, and then just keep it warm in the oven all sliced up.
And it doesn't
So
dry out that
that's
way.
right, because you've got a cover on it, and you've got
Mm-hmm.
some of the juices from the pan that will keep it moist. And that is one way to kind of avoid, and because turkeys are kind of a mess.
Right.
And so you've got this turkey carcass that's sitting there after you've carved it. You want to remember that all of your leftovers, you don't want them sitting at room temperature for more than 2 hours.
Right. So
And
don't
that's
like leave them out while you're eating and drinking for hours.
right. You want to get them put away. And I have some tips for that. You want to hear some of
Yay.
my tips for
Yes, of
leftovers,
course.
Lily?
Yes, I
Okay.
love leftover tips because that's my
Okay.
like favorite time about Thanksgiving
Oh my
actually
gosh.
is the leftovers where I can make like all these different things, turkey soup and all that.
Yes. Okay, so if you're not making turkey broth with your turkey carcass, that is something that is so crazy easy. And I actually recommend um, doing this kind of right away so that you can kind of clean the mess up. So what you can do is take the bones and any leftover skin and anything, put it straight into your crock pot, cover it with water, and put your crock pot on low and just let it go until the next night. Let it cook for
Hmm.
24 hours.
Perfect. And you
But
got
that
this
cleans
great
up
bone
the turkey
broth.
mess. Yeah, it's bone
Right.
broth. You get that turkey mess out of the way, and you don't have turkey bones sitting in your refrigerator, and they're not sitting at room temperature, and you get them out of the way, and they just so have your crock pot ready. You can even have it pre-filled with water, and then you just add the bones. Sometimes
Hmm.
I add an onion and some celery too. You can,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. It's going to
Yum.
be good either way. Turkey
Right.
bones are really flavorful. And so just put it in there, and that you've got that mess cleaned up, and you've got that bone broth going, and you can strain it the next night, but you don't have to worry about it for 24 hours. It's just sitting there on your counter,
You're like, thank
turning
God.
into amazing. Right. Okay. So the next thing is, if you have guests, I save up like yogurt and cottage cheese containers. Like I buy my yogurt in like a 1 quart tub,
Hmm.
and
For all of your
I
kids.
save up. Right. Right. I save those containers for months ahead of time. And then when we have guests, and as soon as we've finished eating and I'm trying to put away the leftovers, I ask them what they want, and I make each guest a little tub of whatever they want. And then I put it all into a bag and put it in the refrigerator. And then when it's time to go, I just hand them their bag, and they have all of their leftovers, and all of the containers
Oh,
are recycled. So
perfect.
I don't have to get them back.
Right.
And
Like, don't give it back to me, please.
yeah, because they know they're, cottage
Right.
cheese or
I guess we
yogurt containers,
recycle
so it's not a big deal.
them.
We're just recycling those containers, and that way everybody gets a taste of what they want for leftovers. As
Hmm.
far as using up the turkey, I love to make a good turkey pot pie. I have a
Oh,
recipe on my
yum.
website
Oh,
for
good.
cheater turkey pot pie. It's at feedyourfamilytonight.com, and just type in pot pie. I use pre-made puff pastry, and
Hmm.
I bake it separately, and I make the pot pie filling in a skillet. And then I just put it together so that nothing gets soggy, everything's really crispy, and it comes together in 20 minutes,
Nice.
which
That's
everybody wants.
awesome. Yay. That's
Wants a
so
good little
great.
yeah, it's just some turkey, and you can either make a gravy or you can use leftover turkey gravy, a bag of frozen vegetables, and a box of puff pastry, and you have the best turkey pot pie you're ever going to have. And it's super simple. Um,
Nice. That sounds great.
Another one of my favorite leftover things is, I don't know, are you a cranberry sauce fan, Lulu?
Oh, totally. I love it. My mother-in-law gave me her like a recipe that she's had forever, and it's jalapeno lime,
Oh,
cilantro, relish, and I could just like, eat it on everything. And I do. I make like a huge batch and I freeze it all like for months so I can eat it.
I was just thinking today that I need to experiment with the jalapeno cranberry sauce
Yeah,
because,
it's
oh
so good.
my
I'll
gosh, that
send it
would
to
be
you.
good.
It's super easy and so
Oh,
good.
But I like to spread that on a piece of bread with a little bit of mayo and then put my turkey in there. Or
Mm.
sometimes I'll even do it on a lettuce wrap or a tortilla if I'm not wanting
Hmm.
like too much bread.
Right,
But
gluten
the
free
cranberry
style.
sauce, yeah, but the cranberry sauce with a little bit of mayonnaise and the turkey together just is bright and acidic, and it's a fun way to eat the leftovers. So those are
Totally.
some of my favorite leftover tricks.
Yum. Oh, I love it. I'm doing something totally different this year, which I'm sure a lot of the listeners have a different Thanksgiving, right? And so we're
Oh yeah.
not getting together with our big family. It's just us and our two really good friends, which we've been kind of quarantining a lot with. So we feel really safe. And I ordered a big turkey, but I'm not bringing it to the party. I'm like going to make it separately, and so that my husband and I have it, and then I'm just making a turkey breast. So we're gonna have that, and I thought that was like super easy. And then I got ordered it local, so I was really conscious about where it came from, and yeah, so it's different. And I'd love for you to talk about some ways that people can feel connected to family with their meals right now, because it's different. They might be the first time they've never had Thanksgiving without their parents, something like that. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. Just because we can't physically be together doesn't mean that we can't build connection. And I
Mm-hmm.
believe connection is so important. There's a couple of ways that you can do this. First of all, use the technology that you've got. If you've got FaceTime
Zoom.
or iPads or Zoom, don't be afraid to use that. One of my friends, she does this with her family for birthday parties, and they've done it for years because everybody's all over the country. But I
Mm-hmm.
think it's great is everybody gets their own dessert in their town or wherever they are, and they get together and they sing happy birthday on Zoom, and then
Aw,
everybody eats their own dessert together. And
that's
I
so
think
cute.
especially at Thanksgiving, you could definitely get together and everybody eat dessert together. And I have to tell you, my favorite part of Thanksgiving dinner is after dessert, the kids come in and they gobble down the dessert and they go off to play. And the adults sit and we have like an hour, hour and a half of quiet conversation over a cup of coffee as we slowly eat our dessert. And I feel like that's something that you can totally do over Zoom. Let the kids come on and say hi to all the cousins and whatever. And then the
Mm-hmm.
adults can have their adult time. And I
Yeah.
think that's a really good way of building connection. Another way is if you have a special family recipe. In our house, my mother makes cranberry sauce and her grandkids come over and make them with her. My son is 17 years old and he is still expected to come and make cranberry sauce with grandma on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Let me tell you. So it's like a
Nice.
big tradition. If you
Yeah.
have food traditions, do them with your loved one over Zoom. And you can do it one of two ways. You can have the person who usually makes it coach the person through making it,
Mm-hmm.
or you can both make it together at the same time.
Oh,
But
that's
it's a
fun.
way of passing on those family foods
Mm-hmm.
and again, building connection, especially if there's a grandma or a grandpa or an aunt and uncle who has a special dish and you're not going to be able to have it because you're not going to be at their house. They
Right.
can help you make it or help your children make it. And it's a way of building connection.
Yeah, you could still have the wishbone. The Zoom wishbone. Who's gonna make the wish? Everybody
Yeah,
pulls at the
you can
same
still have
time.
the wishbone.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Those are great tips.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah, it's important, I think, for families that are listening to establish, keep the old traditions and find a new way, but then maybe some new traditions that you're in exploring, like what could we do that would be different? My family every year for Christmas, we do the poppers, where you pull the popper and then you wear the hat and
Yeah.
all of the crazy little toys. And I was thinking about something that we could do similar to that for Thanksgiving, because we're going to be in Zoom, and I haven't figured it out yet. I mean, I guess we could do poppers twice, but I think it's
You
something
could
that,
totally do
yeah,
Thanksgiving poppers.
right. Yeah. I need to find some turkey ones.
Yeah, yeah, I bet you
Hmm.
could find some turkey poppers. But
Hmm.
yes, and here, you're talking about how things are changing and we want to keep the same traditions, but here's the other thing is traditions have to start somewhere. And this is your year to
Hmm.
cop out on things that you don't really like or think habits
Hmm.
that other family members have that you're not too fond of. That this is your year to bow out, and it's also your year to create new traditions. So if there's
Totally.
something that you've wanted to try but you haven't had the bandwidth, you haven't had the time, you haven't had the gumption, this is your year to try it with your family. 2020 has given us a lot of whammies, but it's also given
Hmm.
us a few blessings.
Right.
And slowing down and having more permission to say no has been a gift.
Right. Exactly.
And
Yeah. I love that.
use that gift. Use that
Hmm.
gift this year. It's okay. Again, it
Yeah.
goes back to that intentionality we talked about earlier, Lulu, is that
Hmm.
ask your family what's most important, and
Hmm.
things that are less important, you can say no to.
Right.
And you'll
Exactly.
enjoy the most important things more because you have more
Hmm.
bandwidth to be there.
Right, for your family, and you can be there for what counts. Yeah, I love that. And you know, I think people can think outside the box this year too, you know, and maybe make a new food that they have not made before, or maybe it's a new tradition like I was saying with poppers, or maybe it's a special new holiday drink that you share with your family where everybody makes it together, you know, and then like, okay, we're all going to toast together, you know, something like fun like that. There's all kinds of traditions that can, a new one that we can establish for moving forward.
Exactly, exactly. And the other thing is, I've thought of, doing some scavenger hunts or doing some things.
Mm,
This is probably more for Christmas than Thanksgiving, but if you have family members that are far away, you could create a photo scavenger hunt where everyone in their own town has to take pictures of something particular, like a car with a license plate with the letter M, or
mm.
a business that has the name of a city that's not the city you live in. So you might go to like a Denver mattress or an old Chicago and take a picture, and everyone in their own cities could do this same scavenger hunt, take the pictures, post them to a shared album, and then you can get on Zoom and you talk about it and you can see all the silly
Mm-hmm.
pictures and the fun places. There are lots of out of the box ways to create connection with loved ones from afar, and it's going to be a little bit more creative to make it happen, but you will start new traditions. And no matter what, people are going to remember this year, so
Mm-hmm.
let's remember it for something new and different and exciting rather than something that is sad and um, focusing on the loss. We all have loss this year.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
if we can focus on the new and the exciting rather than focusing on the loss, that is what we will remember in years to come.
Right. Yeah, so key. I love that. And like you said in the beginning, having that plan. So now's the time to really, you know, Thanksgiving is next week. So really have you haven't started planning, now's your time. But you still have time. It's only Tuesday. But
Yeah.
yeah, really planning on how you can make that tradition great. Have an easy holiday, a stressful free holiday. And that's key from what you said in the very beginning, organizing and planning it. And I love that you have a holiday guide. I'm going to check that out on your website. And let's talk a little bit about your fun book, if we can. So your book is called Feed Your Family Tonight Cookbook. And you also have a
Mhm.
guide that comes with that. So I'd love for you to talk about like how that cookbook helps people prepare for a busy week and helps to take the stress off.
Sure. My cookbook is simple recipes for busy families. It is Midwest cooking. Most of it is almost all whole foods. It's just simple foods for families. It's about getting dinner on the table on a Tuesday night. It's not fancy food, it's not holiday food. You're going to find recipes there for lots of salad dressings and something really funny, but I want to share this because it's important. I do not have a side dish section. And I've had so many people, well, what do you mean? And I said, our family doesn't eat side dishes. My children are not fans of cooked vegetables. So our family starts every dinner off with a raw salad.
Nice.
And we all eat our salads before I go to the entree. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes the entree might have a starch with it, like a rice or a noodle or something. And sometimes
Right.
I'll roast some veggies and stuff on the side. But in my family, I focus on getting the veggies through salad. So I have a whole section on salad dressings and
Great.
soups, um, simple meals that are broken down by proteins And that is the basis of Feed Your Family Tonight. My meal planning notebook that goes
Mm-hmm.
along with it
Yay,
walks you
planning.
through. Yeah, it walks you through my 3-step process. There's 52 pages in there, so there's one
Wow, that's
page
a
for
big
every
plan.
week. Right. Well, it's a week. It's one
So
page
it's
for
for the
every
whole
week.
year.
It's a year of meal planning,
Whoa, that's amazing.
and it walks you through my process. And let me kind of walk you through it so that you can hear about it. It I call it my PSA. I'm a child of the 80s, and they had those silly public service announcements that were
Totally.
like commercials that taught morals. You remember
Right.
those?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's my PSA for weeknight family dinner. The P stands for plan and prep. You start by listing your activities, and you are looking at what your life is like. And the activities are either what's happening after school or what your workday is going to be like. Anything that's going to affect your energy or timing of dinner can go into your activities. Then you set a dinner bell. That dinner bell is your target time when you're going to eat.
Which is
And in my
key.
we have 4 teenagers. It changes every day.
Right.
I would love to say that we sat down at dinner for 5:30 every night, but it doesn't
It's
work.
not
And sometimes I'm
realistic,
writing shifts.
probably. Yeah.
Sometimes we're even eating in shifts, and I'll write that on my meal plan.
Oh, that's a
Then
great.
then you write what you're having for dinner, and you plan that around what your activities are like. So if you've got a day where there's piano 3:45 to 4:45, soccer 5 until 6, and you've got to be back up at school for a PTO meeting at 7, you need something in the oven or the slow cooker to eat at 6:15 the minute you walk in the door from soccer
Mm,
practice.
right.
But a couple days later, you might be able to make a stir fry because you've got 20 minutes at the oven. So plan
Mm-hmm.
your meals around what your activities are going to be like. Know your schedule. Don't set yourself up for failure for a meal on a busy night that takes a lot of work.
Right. Then you get the
Then
hangry and will not be good.
oh, it's I mean,
Nobody
we've all
likes
done
that.
it. No. And then at the bottom of that, there's a place called prep.
Mm,
And I want you to write your prep on the day you need to do it, not the day of the meal. So here's an
mm,
example. If you're having red beans and rice on Wednesday, on Tuesday, you're going to write soak the beans.
right.
If I'm having a roast beef on Sunday, on Friday, I'm going to write take roast out of the freezer.
Right. You don't
And
want a frozen roast.
you don't want a frozen roast. And so, any prep that you can do, and get in the habit of doing prep at a certain time. Some people
Mm.
like to prep kind of in the morning when they're cleaning up the breakfast dishes.
Oh, that's
I
a good
like to
idea.
prep at
Mm-hmm.
night when I'm cleaning up the dinner dishes because my
Mm-hmm.
kitchen's already a mess. I'm going to have to wipe down the counters anyway. So, it only takes a few seconds more to do a couple of little prep things right before I do my dinner dishes.
Right.
And then I just wipe down my counters, clean up my kitchen, and it's set for the next day.
Yeah.
The key is to be able to come to do whatever cooking you have to do with all of the prep done ahead of time so you don't forget steps like marinating and soaking beans and thawing
Mm-hmm.
meat, and it helps you add more variety. And so this meal planning notebook has that, and then on the back there's a place to write your grocery list.
Oh,
And here's my
nice.
tip about grocery lists is I post my meal plans on Instagram and Facebook every week, and but if you don't do that, because I mean, you're not a food professional, so you're probably not posting your meal plans, but
No, I
take
don't
a
post my meal
picture,
plans. People would love that if I had time for it, probably, but I don't have time for that.
but take a picture of your meal plan and take a picture of your grocery list. So when you go to the store and you've forgotten the piece of paper, you
Oh
can look
God.
at your phone
I
because
do.
it's
I've
in
done
your
that
phone.
so many times, and I
Right?
hate
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Oh, or I'll take the list. This is really, oh, I do this every time I go shopping. I have the list, and then I get home, and then there was like something I forgot that was on the list. I'm like, how did I? What happened?
Yep. So take a picture of your list, and because we all keep our phones with us, so take a
Hmm.
picture of the list, and that way you can reference your list in the grocery store if you forget it. Now, I like to carry my paper list with me, but I've got that picture as a backup
Right.
because
That's
we've
great.
all done it.
Right. So
and
many times.
and so yeah, so the Feed Your Family Tonight cookbook is just simple recipes for feeding families. The meal planning notebook that goes with it is 52 weeks or 52 weeks of meal planning. So you have a full year of pages that you can write on. And it helps keep you organized, and it helps save you brain space. Because if you take a few
Hmm.
minutes at the beginning of the week, then you don't have to think about it the
That's so
rest of
key.
the
Yeah.
week. And that dinner dread goes away.
The dinner dread. Yeah, I know I have to totally plan because my husband and I have different schedules during the week.
Yep.
And he works late at night, 2 nights a week. So I have to figure out like, okay, I'm gonna make dinner and then figure out like when is he gonna eat and what am I gonna do? And I was seeing patients. So yeah, planning. If I didn't plan my meals, I would not probably eat or I would eat bad food. Who knows what would
Right.
happen? It would not be good.
Well, that reminds me of my friend Shannon. Her husband is a dentist and he works a couple of evenings a week so patients can come in after their work. And she had
Mhm.
a daughter who's in competitive dance and a son who played football. And she makes dinner at 10 in the morning. So she gets
Oh,
up and gets her kids off to
interesting.
school, goes to the gym. She comes home and she fixes dinner and puts everything in glass containers labeled with the person's name on it.
Mm.
And then they eat dinner whenever they're coming in the house because there are nights when no one is home at the same time. Her goal is to always have two people together so no one's eating alone,
Right,
but
but
they
sometimes
can
that
just
doesn't
pull their
happen.
food out of the refrigerator and
Mhm.
reheat it.
That's a
Yeah,
great
but
idea.
but
Yeah.
she
Mhm.
but she fixes dinner at 10 in the morning. So this is about making meal planning work for your family. Again, it's
Mhm.
not a one size fits all. I'm not going to give you what to cook. I have lots of recipes and I am happy to share all the recipes on my website. But so many families have different allergies or different needs or different
Right.
picky eaters. I've got all of those in my house. And so what my family's going to eat isn't always the same as what your family's going to eat.
Right. Know
It's
what you
about
like, know
making
what you
meal
love.
planning work
Mhm.
for you. It's not one
Totally.
size fits all.
Right. Yeah, and that's key. And
Yeah.
like you said earlier too, you're changing from day to day and you might like really like something one day and then your family might not like, "Oh, mom, I'm not eating that this week." you know?
Oh my gosh, my kids will totally they'll eat the same thing for 6 months and then like the next day they're like, "I'm not eating that anymore."
You're like, "Wait, what
Has that
what
happened to you
happened?"
with like bananas or something? Like you're
Right.
yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. Very it, and it we're all like that. We kind of get into a rhythm and then our body says, "I've had enough of that food. It's time for something else."
Right,
Um, so yeah.
totally. Oh, that's great. Okay, so I love that. And they people can find both of those things on your website. They can find the cookbook, the guide with the cookbook, and then also the holiday guide. So three great things are all on the website. And do you also work with clients on an individual basis, or is it just like programs? Like how does it work when people are going to your website?
Okay, so my website is the best way to find me, but I do private consultations. If you're
Hmm.
interested in that, my email's on the website. Just email me, marie@mariefiebach.com. I do individual consultations if you want me to come in and help you kind of work with getting your meal plan going.
Get
And
organized.
also sometimes getting organized and also sometimes adapting recipes to allergens.
Hmm.
I've done that for some people too,
Nice, great.
helping them get get adapted if they're having to change their diet a little bit. So you can definitely email me for that.
Great, good, awesome. Okay, so I love those three kind of like tips you have on your website, and just kind of like wrapping up today. I'd love for you to just talk about what your okay. So here's my fun question: if you had an unlimited budget, um, it's the world is your oyster, so to speak. What would you do with that money or that budget to make the most impact on our planet, to make a difference, especially right now?
I've had on my heart since I was 19 years old that we can help people in poverty
Mm,
overcome some of their circumstances by teaching them how to cook better and eat better. I
mm,
volunteer with some teens that are coming out of the foster system or have been coming out of incarceration. And
mhm,
the foods that they are used to eating are from the frozen food section and from convenience stores. And very little of what they're used to is whole foods. When
mhm,
you start teaching people how to use a knife and how to cook dry beans and how to cook meat from like the butcher, they can start getting healthier
mm,
and it improves their budget and it improves their confidence and it improves their lives. So, somewhere, somehow, I know that I will be teaching that because I
mm,
feel like teaching people in poverty how to cook. And so, there's a dream of an initiative where I am teaching and I have volunteers all over the country who are giving classes in their local community centers for teaching people in
Mm.
poverty how to cook with a instruction and a curriculum coming from Feed Your Family Tonight.
Oh, that's great. I love that dream. I used to live in Seattle and there was this wonderful it was like a cooking school, but it was geared towards people coming like just like you said, coming out of poverty or incarceration, whatever, and they would go and they'd have a safe place to learn, and then it taught them how to be chefs and work in the
Yes.
culinary system. And I thought it was such a great idea. And then the when the as a consumer, you could go in and you could eat at the restaurant, so it was a really cool way for
Oh,
us to give like back to the nonprofit community, and also teaching people who have a passion for food to learn about it and develop a new skill, and so I kind of see that would be something really fun to tie in to your dream. And I love that dream. That's
yeah.
great. Everybody should be able to learn about healthy whole foods, learn how to cook with them, and feed their family.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
that's the dream.
that's great. Love it. Love it. Well, thank you so much, Marie. It's been such a pleasure to have you on the Genetic Genius today. And I know that our listeners learned so much about how to have a stressful, free, and healthy holiday with meal planning. So thank you.
Oh, the pleasure's mine, Lulu. Thanks so much for letting me join you today.
It's been so fun. Okay, bye, everybody.
I'm going to stop my